So, like I said yesterday, when you've got a Mini, what you want to do is look at it a bit closely and you'll see, if I can get the lighting right, let's turn the lights on in here. That doesn't work either. So, if you can't get the lighting right, like I'm struggling to here, a desk lamp is also a great tool. So, yeah, that's picking it up a bit better. So, as you can see, we've got a leather strap sort of running down the body here. Running down the body there. We've got the shield here. We've got a spear. And the spear, I find weapons are really good to look closely at. So there's a stick in the middle. There's sort of a metal head here. And there's something on the bottom that's probably metal of some description. He's got a bunch of armour. Sorry about the camera shake. He's got a bunch of shoulder plates and a helmet. So there's all a bunch of metal there as well. And he's got this sort of also leathery looking tunic thing with a bunch of raised seams. He's got some like shin guards on, but his feet are bare. Now the reason we look at minis before we paint them is it's good to know sort of what we're looking for. So on this mini there's a lot of metal, and there's also a lot of leather. So what I'm looking for is, like I said yesterday, it's yesterday for me. I don't know how long this video is going to take me to film, but it's yesterday for me for when I recorded that video. Bugman's Glow as an undercoat is a great undercoating, and let's just do that. And then your lead bletcher. This comes in the beginner paint set. So what I'm going to do, a bit of an advanced technique. Well, I've only just picked it up and I think it's quite good. For all of the metal, I'm going to paint it in Bugman's Glow. And then what I'm going to do is put the silver on, wait for the Bugman's Glow to dry, and put the silver on, and scratch the silver off. And it just reveals the Bugman's Glow with the silver over the top, so it kind of makes it look like it's rusted. I've shown that, I think, in yesterday's video. But we'll see that again today, and we'll see how I do that today. Other things that we need to think about is skin. Luckily, GW make a paint for orc skin. Orc flesh. There you go. That's what we're using for the skin. It's perfect. Now, one thing we can try is possibly dry brushing a bit of this green over the top of the skin. So there's the skin, there's the metal. So we've got our paints for the skin and for the metal. Leather. I've been using a Steel Legion drab. Oh god, this camera's a bit in the way. A Steel Legion drab and a Morfang brown. I'm pretty sure both of these come in the starter set, but either way, they're both great paints. Steel Legion drab sort of comes out as a bit of a tanned leather sort of look, very drab. And Morfang brown is just your normal, I like to call it wand brown or stick brown. So, from looking at the model, that's all the paints we need for that model. Like I said, I like to paint two models at the same time. So what have we got on this one? We've got a little metal face mask. That's really cool. If I can get it to focus. That looks really cool. You got your shield again. The shield's got a little leather tassel on the bottom, and that's worth, little details like that are worth noting. A lot more leather on this one, but still a bit of armour. Again, the weapon worth having a look at is a same stick with a metal rod, a bit of a bigger weapon, a bit of a bigger blade on this one, bit of a detailed one, quite nice. Other than that, we've got some like tassels running around his leg. So there's a bit of leather running around his feet there. And again, leather all around the hood. So I'm not seeing anything different on this model compared to the other model. Probably the same colours. And that's why we paint two similar models at the same time. So when we do paint, we may not use up all the paint from our paint palette. There might still be some left over. We can use the same paint on two different models at the same time. So what I'm going to do is get my paint palette sorted. It's just there. My water. Keep your water and your drink separate, otherwise you will drink from your paint pot. Keep them very, very separate, or you'll put your brush and you'll put that in your paints. So, first things first, I'm going to bring my water cup in. I'm going to bring my paint palette in. Hopefully they both focus. So, what we've got, if I get a bit better lighting. No, that's not going to help. There we go. So what we've got, I'm going to start with all of the skin. You want to start with the deepest part of the model first. So I'm going to start with this auric flesh. And what I'm going to do is shake it up first, because if you don't shake it up, there won't be any in this top bit of the lid here. Oh, let's just straighten up this camera. There we go. See this top bit of the lid? If you shake it up, all your paint will come to this top bit of the lid. And it's a bit more awkward to do whilst trying to shot on camera, but you want to get a healthy glob of paint out your lid. Decent amount, about that much on your brush. Decent amount. And then on your palette, you just want to rub it down on your palette. And that's, it's not all on your brush, so you're not going to leave a load of residue on the brush. That's better. So you're not going to leave a bunch of paint on the brush. There's still going to be paint on your brush, but you're not going to have that big thick glob there. The reason you put some on the paper is because you're going to need it quite regularly and you don't want to keep going back to the pot. So now I've done that. The Warhammer guys at the Warhammer store will tell you to thin your paint down. And what they mean by that is just grab a little, literally for a millisecond, touch your brush into the water and it will just wet your brush and it will thin your paint down slightly. Makes your paints last a bit longer. What I do find though, is if you're ever painting in a white or a pink or something like that, it might be better to direct apply, and you don't necessarily need to water down all your paints. You'll get a feel for that. And I'll show you. When next time I paint something white, you'll see what I mean. Well, I mean, for metallic paints are the same. So I'm just going to move my water out of the way. And we're going to start painting. So what I do is I find just sort of a big surface where I can start. And I see this guy's shoulder here. Let's turn this light back on. This guy's shoulder is a big, nice surface that I can paint. And I start at a nice big surface because there's a lot of paint on your brush when you start. And it will thin out as you go. So all I'm doing is I'm trying to follow the lines of that leather and provide a bit more detail. So you'll see that all I'm doing is following that line of where the leather is. It's fine if you go over, doesn't matter. I do it all the time. You can clean up, you can do everything later, that doesn't matter one bit. Pardon me. And you just keep painting. Try to keep it on just the skin. If it goes on other things, it doesn't matter. Just makes your life a bit awkward later. You'll have to go around and clean up. So, see here how it's starting to show the primer through the paint. Means there's not enough paint on my brush. So what I'm going to do, get the palette, and I'm going to roll my brush. So I'm just twisting my brush between my two fingers, and I'm getting more paint onto my brush. Okay, back to the model. And we just go back over that little bit that we were doing before. And we can see that that's a bit better now. There's still not quite enough paint, so I'm going to do that without trying to show you. Just want to roll it onto the brush. And what it might be is I might have watered down the paint a bit too much. I typically don't water down my lighter paints. And that's because I find that it means that you don't get the right consistency. And it's probably just because I water them down too much. But I tend to just not water them down. And that tends to seem pretty fine anyway. So yeah, I'm going to grab another little bit of paint. So I've watered it down a bit too much. All I do is I grab another glob of paint. Like that. Go back to my palette and I just rub it in with the other green. And I keep it in the same place. Oh, that was a lot of camera shake. There we go. Camera stopped shaking. So I've just rubbed in a little bit of extra green onto the same place in my palette. And I'm going to carry on. So hopefully, now that I've rubbed a bit of extra green, this sort of patching, oh god, camera shake. So now this sort of patchiness should just go away. And we get a nice thick, well not thick, a nice consistent coat all over the model. So we've done all the back. Now we've done his back. That's the big flat surface that we saw that we could paint really easily. And if you, especially if you do a flat surface immediately, you'll see how to do the easy bit first. No, this is where the difficult bit comes in. You can see, hopefully you can see. Let's try turning that off. There you go. So under his sort of hood, he's got a six-pack there. And this is where it can be quite difficult to get a brush in there. And to get a brush in there without touching anything else is virtually impossible. But you need to get that deeper bit done first. So what I sort of do is lift the model up so I can see it. Probably more like that for you. And you'll be able to see the underbits. And sort of you want to twist the model and see where all the little bits of skin are. And just check that what you're painting is skin, obviously. You don't want to paint over a little bit of leather or armour or something. So have a look at those detailed parts of the model probably before you paint them. Sorry about that. I just had to get really far in there. There we go. So there's a decent amount of that done. We're now going to do his neck, which again, we're going to go through there. And this guy's got his mask on as well, so I'm trying not to touch the mask, because that makes it easier to paint later. Oh, camera shake, sorry about that. So you can now see that I've painted under, I've got his neck. Not much of his neck, so I'd like to get a bit more paint there to hopefully make that a little bit more full. And there we go. So we've got the top half of the model. All of the skin is now covered. Oh, no it's not. Oh, God, I need to stop locking this camera. That will come with time, I dare say. Like a lot of things do. So his hand just behind the shield, that's poking out there. I'm not sure if you can see that. Yeah, you can see his hand just there. You want to get little details like that, because then if someone looks at your mini sideways on, sort of like that, they're going to see that hand. If that hand's painted like your shield colour, it's going to be noticeable. So you just want to do little details like that if you can. So there's all the green. I've got a bit of green on the shield, doesn't matter. And it doesn't need to be perfect because we're going to go back over it. So that's his top done. I'm going to need a little bit more paint. So I'm going to crack open my paint and drop a bit on the palette. And I'm going to go tackle his feet. So again, there's a little bit of skin here on the bottom half. And I find it best to be methodical. So sort of just, you want to do one area first and do everything in that little area. Otherwise you'll find that you're half an hour into painting a model and you've missed some of the skin. So I've got a bit there. And the other thing kitchen model is great for, I just sort of dab the paint off. And the reason I dab the paint off like that is it makes it clearer that was an accident. And I need to paint over it in something else. Sometimes it's not always easy to see once you've got paints on what something was. So obviously the paints will blend it together a little bit and that detail might be a little bit less clear. Or you might just not notice. You might think, oh, I've already painted that, I don't need to paint it again. Oh, whereas in actual fact, you messed up a little bit. So just dabbing it with a bit of paper towel, always helpful. Just grabbing a bit more paint. And that's largely about needed. There you go. Ooh, camera shake. Now I'm just doing the feet. So I've done both the knees. Oh, there's a little crack back there. Just between his knee and his leather. So you're painting his foot. And he's got a little rock by his foot as well. So we'll paint that later. And his other foot. So I've done both of his knees and both of his feet. So I just know what I've done. And the feet, I find you're going to get the base green or whatever colour you're painting. So just go for it. Just make sure you got a good coating on the feet. So that is all of our orc green on one model. Now, you're not going to be able to tell if you've got everything fully until it's dry. I can sort of see that there's not enough there. But you're not going to be able to properly tell until it's dry. So this is where I say that what you should do. Pop that mini to one side, let it dry, and pick up your second mini. So you may notice this, the model I've just painted, and hopefully you've just seen. I did notice I was doing that a bit and it was going off camera a little bit. So hopefully you just watched me paint it, no promises. You may notice it's not the model we were saying we were going to paint together. We said I was going to paint this one. I said this guy was going to be really easy to paint. And I looked a bit closer before I started painting and I noticed there's a big crack in this guy's back. And the reason that I don't want to paint this guy, he's a perfect reason to use some green stuff. So I'll make a video on how to fix this issue. You might notice it if you're doing some push fit models. These were push fit models. We sort of glued them together This crack was slightly too big for glue. A lot of these models didn't quite push together properly. So this is a perfect reason to use green stuff. I'll do a separate video on how to do that. So we've done all the green. Our brush is green. What I'm going to do now, just swirl your brush out. The grooves on the bottom of your pot, ideally you've got grooves on the bottom of your pot, or if you haven't, just wipe it against the sides and stuff. But you just want to make sure that there's no green left on your brush. The way to tell there's no green left on your brush, get your kitchen towel. Sorry, that was a bit laggy there. And just scrape your brush along and roll it. Keep rolling your brush because it'll keep that fine point. But there you go. And on here, there's not any green. So we're all good to go. There's no green on that brush. And my brush is dry. So, this model's the one I've just done. And it's decent. It's a bit messier than the other one. I did it a bit quicker. This one, it's now dry. It only took about 5 minutes to dry for one coat. Or largely dry at the very least. And I could tell, but it's a decent coat. And I know that I'm going to mess it up in other ways. So when I do some of this leather, I'm going to get some of the brown onto the skin. So I'm going to have to do another coat of the skin at some later point anyway. So there's no point me doing that now. The next question I've got for myself is, what colour do I do next? And often I go for the big colours first. So in this model, it's that brown for all the leather. Because there's not much metal. Where is his helmet, I guess? Which seems to be a mix of, seems to have leather with some spikes in it. Or that might be all metal. I think his helmet's all metal. And there is a hood under its helmet. Okay. So, we're going to go with the leather. For the leather, like I said earlier, we're going to take our Morphang Brown. And same thing again. Crack it open. Oh, there's not enough paint there. Shake it up a bit. And you'll get some paint in the lid. And you want to get a healthy glob again. And you just want to put it onto your palette like so. If you've got a wet palette or anything from any other hobbies, that might work. Yeah, at that point you're probably more advanced than I am. And you probably don't need to watch this video. But there's that. Bit of brown on the palette. And again, we're just going to thin it down with the slightest little bit of water. And that really is a thing. You'll get a feel for it. Have a play with that. Sorry about the camera shake. Have a play with that. So now, what we're going to do, I'm going to focus on these bits where I've messed up. I'm just going to get brown on that first. Because whilst I've just started it, it's really easy to see where I've messed up. And where those sort of borderlines are. And whilst I'm painting the brown, I'm just looking. His shield's going in the way there for you guys. I'm just looking for any detail work, but I might want to dry brush later. So you can see a lot of the belts and some of the stitching here and stuff. I'm spotting it now whilst I'm painting it. So you can see here, I've already got a little bit of brown onto the skin. So I knew I was going to do that. So I don't need to worry about getting a good coat of green on first. It's better to go get all your coats on and do a few laps of tidy up. When I first started, I would spend hours and hours and hours fixing. I'd get a really good coat of green on and it would be perfect. But then I'd go cock it up by putting some like some brown on or something over the top, and then I'd have to do the green again. But I just spent hours and hours and hours doing the green or whatever colour it was. It's better to get a loose coat on first, get your colours in first, and do extra coats later if it needs it as a patch-up job. because you're going to need to do a patch up of everything anyway. Unless you're really dexterous, and you're definitely not going to miss anything. So I've done his main skirt bit here. And that's largely done now. See, I'm going up again. So I've done his major skirt bit here. And I'm going down. I'm working down the model first, so the bottom half will be done. So I'm just doing his leg bits. Now I don't know if this commentary is going to make it in to the video. I don't know if I'm going to cut this video, The Kingdom Come, or this commentary is going to make it in. If this commentary makes it in, hello. Now I've just said that, now it's weird. So, I'm going to get a bit more brown. My brown's running out on my pad. A little bit of water. Reaching over this camera is really not that fun. That was a bit more water than I thought. Let's see how that plays out. Because I've just put a bit too much water on. Again, I'm going to choose a bigger surface area. So I'm just going to do this bit. And that is actually perfect. So now I've sort of got a lot of that paint off my brush. I can go in and do this bit where I don't want to get too much brown on, because I've already done most of it. And then I can go back to doing this top bit up here. And again, I've looked at the model and I've decided that there is his brown cloaky thing. And again, I've just got a bit of brown there on the arm. You see that, and it doesn't matter. Do not lose sleep over it. Again, if you can, just dab it a little bit, so you can tell. Because if it's dabbed, you'll see that it's messy. Later on, it won't necessarily just be a clear colour break for you. You'll see that little bit of messiness. But like I said, this guy's got his hood and he's got his helmet. So I'm just tracing around the line where his helmet becomes his hood. With a little detail line here where his sort of ear pops out. So we're going to try and get down there. That's another thing, ears. Don't paint them with the skin, paint them last. Oh, that's my notification, sorry about that. So there's all the brown done. And again, oh, this camera's getting hit quite a lot with my brush. Sorry about that, guys. And again, there's all your brown done. Easy peasy. And you can already tell that he's getting there. We've just got that metal left to do. And then a bit of tidying up. So there's that. I'm going to leave that to dry. I'm going to do the same thing on this model that I'm painting myself. So, it's been a little bit of time since I painted these two. I've gone and took a bit of a break and just relaxed a bit. But we're back to it now. So, this is a model that I've just painted. Hopefully you've seen me paint it. Got all the brown. I missed a bit of the green, so I've also just patched up a little bit of the green that I missed. And you can always go back. This one is been a bit more of a rush job. I wish I'd spent a bit more time on it, like I have done with this one. But this is the one we're painting together. So now looking at the green, I can see there's a lot of spaces that I've missed. But like I said earlier, I'm going to get all the colour on first, and we'll go back around. So The only bits where I need to go now is metal. And then we're going to go back around and patch stuff up. So let's go for the metal first. For the metal, we're going to do that base coat of Bugman's Glow. And again, just a healthy amount. With Bugman's Glow, I tend not to thin it down. It's a light brown, as you can sort of see. And you can see why I use it for a rusty texture as well. Yeah. So we're just coating all the metal bits in this Bugman's Glow. And there's a few bits that I've missed, like this tassel. Here I've missed a Morphang Brown on that sort of leather tassel. But it really doesn't matter, I can come back and do it in the future. And because we're coating over this again in silver, it doesn't particularly matter that we get great coverage. We want decent coverage, but if we miss a bit here or there, there's going to be silver over the top of it anyway. When you're doing shields and things, don't forget to do the back of the shield. You will be able to see that. Obviously, regardless of whether or not you've got them on display, you're going to be able to see different angles of the mini, depending on how you've got them and what angle you're looking at them from. So you just want to make sure that you've got, do your backs of things, don't ignore it. It takes 2 seconds. It's awkward as well. The other thing you'll notice with backs of things, often like arms will be in the way and stuff. And like here, I've just got a bunch of that Bugman's Glow on his arm there. It doesn't matter, I'm going to go back over it. And any bits you can't get to are fine, especially if you primed in black, because it's just going to look like shadow. It's going to look like bits where light isn't reaching. Again, I've missed the backs on the bottom here. You can see underneath that should be brown, and I've missed that. But I'll go do that when we tidy up. But there's all of the shield in Bugman's Glow. We're now going to go and do the tip of the spear, just that metal part. Because remember, there's the stick and there's the 2 caps. So we're going to coat the tip of the spear in Bugman's Glow. And we're going to do both sides, make sure we get the spear well covered. Weapons tend to get a lot of focus, because obviously they're sticking out, they're the bit that looks cool. You want your weapons to have good coverage and look good. So, there's that. The last bit to do is his helmet, which we're going to do that now. I might be running out of paint here, but I think we're doing alright. Yeah. So with his helmet, yeah, I'm running out of paint. So I'm just going to get a bit more paint on my brush, put it on my palette, and carry on. So there's that. Sorry if you can hear me breathing. Obviously, to paint the minis, the camera is a lot closer, and I'm using my phone as a camera for this. So you're also hearing the microphone through the camera as well. But there you go. There's the helmet. And again, I've just traced that line of where that changes. If we can get that in focus. There you go. So that looks really weird at the moment with it all being Bugman's Glow. It's going to look very different once we've gone back over it in silver. I'm just having another look around. Is this a cap on the end here? So there is a slight metal cap on the end here. I'm just going to make sure I get that as well. And realistically, you could paint this as part of a stick. It wouldn't be too noticeable. But if you can get little details like that in, and you notice it, it does make the model a lot better. So I'm just painting that bottom handle there. There we go. So generally, this model's looking quite good. You've got to let this Bugman's Glow dry. And that does take a while to dry. So in the meantime, I'm going to go back over this model again and give it all the Bugman's Glow. So guys, both models now have got the Bugman's Glow. This one here still needs it on that spear, so I'll do that in a second. But generally they've both got the Bugman's Glow and it's all dry. What I do need to tell you is when your water looks murky like this, go get fresh water. So I'm going to go do that. I'm going to put the Bugman's Glow on this model, just on that spear tip. I missed that. And it's better to have that dry for when I want to put the silver on. And then I'll come back and we'll put the silver on this model together. Hey guys, so we're back. We've just got this model to do and we've just got to put the silver on this model. So here's our silver, and what you'll notice with metallic paints is, oh, I can get it open. Oh, it needs a bit of shake as well. Don't forget to shake your paints. What you'll notice is it's actually a metallic paint. Some people don't like using them. Some people prefer to have like a matte look and make their metals highlighted. This is a really easy way as a beginner just to get things looking right and looking metallic. And you can see I put this on and it just straight away looks like it's metal. Because there's actually a little bit of metal in the paint. So we're going to get all of the silver all the way over. And this is one that I don't thin down at all. I don't thin down metallic paints. Don't know why, I just find that it makes it look better if you don't thin them down, in my experience. Again, when it comes to thinning down of paints, have a play. I don't think I've necessarily hit the nail on the head with that yet. And when I say a year, I've been doing this for a year. It's not a year consistently. I'm just going to get burned out. So that's a year on and off. I haven't quite figured that out yet. So don't expect it to take you a year to get to this level. I wouldn't be surprised if you're better than me straight away. That's kind of the hope, actually. That you guys can turn around and tell me what I'm doing wrong. I say you guys, hopefully there's someone watching this video. I'm not just talking to myself. And there you go. So we've got all the silver covered on the shield. With this technique, I like to do a little bit at a time. So what I do, I painted the silver on the shield. Then I grab my toothpick, if I can actually get one. There we go. Get my toothpick, like this. And all I do is I start attacking it. And you'll see that the silver starts rubbing off. It's better if you get a sharp end. Oh. And you don't necessarily want to get like a big chunk or anything. You just want to get a little bit off. And I found this gives you that rust effect. And you don't really need to do this. I'm just experimenting at the moment. This is my latest experimentation. But I'm finding gives quite a nice effect. Because they're orcs, they shouldn't have nice clean shields. They should be a little bit rusty and messed up. So, there you go. You only need to scrape a little bit off, just to give it that element that it started rusting. So then what we do is we get a bit more silver. And I do a little bit at a time, because you still want the silver to be wet when you're scraping it off. If you are going to scrape it off. If you aren't going to scrape it off, you don't even need the Bugman's Glow, really. You can just use straight silver. Or you could go entirely Bugman's Glow. You could even mix silver and Bugman's Glow together. And you'll get somewhere in between. I've done that before, and that gives a reasonable effect. I tend to find scraping it is good for the shields, but mixing it's good for spears and things. So there we go. And I'm actually, this silver is watery enough on that spear that I'm going to get a bit more and just put a bit more on because it's a bit watery. I'm not sure if you can see. Hopefully it comes into focus. You can see how you can still see the bugman's glow under it. It's a bit watery. That might be another way to do it, is to have watered down metallic paints to do it that way. But yeah, there you go. There's just some silver on there, and so actually I think I've just learned that wateriness is just as good, but I'm just gonna also use a toothpick and scrape away a little bit as well. There we go. And I'm also just going to do the base of the spear, and that I'm just going to leave to fate on whether or not I've got good coverage on it. If I haven't, it's rusty. If I have, it's not. Okay? And I'm not too bothered, because a bit of randomness is also good. You don't want everything to be intentional, especially when it comes to things like rust. So now onto his helmet. This is the thing I said looked quite cool. So I just want to get plenty of silver on my brush. Need a bit more on my palette. I'm just going to go over his helmet. Like that. There we go. And again, it's going to catch things. You're going to get a little bit on the face or a little bit on the armour, or on the leather or something. It doesn't matter. Just as long as you've got paint everywhere, you can go back over and sort it out. And that's actually going to be our next step, is to go back and sort through things. So his helmet's done. All of his colours are done. And you can see he's generally looking like he's quite there. There's a bit around the legs, but we need to tidy up. We still need to do his stick, but we're pretty much there. The stick is something I said. I don't think I picked out colours for the stick, so we'll do that as well. We'll pick out some colours. I'm going to start it with Morphang Brown, I think, just to make it easier for you guys. So there's all the silver done. I'm going to do the silver on the other model, and I'll be right back. So there we go. There's both the silver on both of the models. We've got a bit of patching to do. Silver's still not dry yet. So what you want to do, if you've done something a bit quickly and there's nothing dry, both your models, you can either start a third model and do another model at the same time, or you can just go and do a different area of the model. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my green back out again, and I'm just going to start going over all of the bits that have either had a bit of brown on or whatever. And we're just going to do another loop back round. So here we can see, see, this is why we do deepest thing first, because it's very, very easy to get stuff on that raised edge. So luckily I've done green first. So what we do, we go back round, get the arms and stuff from when I've just done the shield. A little bit of brown there, a little bit here, and we just go back round again. And this also acts as like another coat as well, just to make sure we've got everything. Bit on his legs where I've missed. There. His feet as well, that's a bit patchy. So we'll go back over the feet. And we're just looking for bits where we've overlapped a bit and not really got what we wanted there, or bits where the coating isn't great, like that little bit of his back there. There's a bit of black under there, so we just want to make sure we got green on that. So I think there's a little bit here. You sort of want to go around your model and look for little bits that aren't how you want them to be. So I know his hand might be messed up. His hand might have a bit of silver on it. I'm not sure I can get that at the moment because I've just done the silver and it's not dry. But yeah. Yeah, I can get it. There you go. So that's just his little hand under his shield here. It's quite hard to show on camera and paint at the same time, I'm afraid. So there's all that. There's all his green. Done. Can't see anything else. A little bit around his leg here. And you just go around to make sure you've got it all. Cool. And probably just his face. Tidy up around his mouth. And then we'll go back around with the brown. So, done the green now. You're just doing another lap and tidying up. So, you get your brown back out. And you don't need as much paint on your tidy lap because obviously you're not doing big coverage. You're just getting the bits that you've missed before. So this top bit obviously is silver, so I've just done it. And there's a little bit of green down there. So there's the brown. Oh, have I got? No, I just missed a bit of silver. Okay, so I'll go back and do that. See, I've spotted on the side of his face there, there's still a bit of Bugman's glow. So we'll go back over that with the silver. His belt isn't great, so I'm just going back over that as well. That's done. And it just gives you a chance to tidy everything up. And then the last little thing, this necklace here. Didn't notice it on the first time round. So we're just going to do it now. There you go. And there's a detail there, there's like a locket or something. And we'll do something with that as well. This tassel needs doing in brown. There we go. So that tassel's done in the brown. And now the two things left obviously would be that Bugman's glow and the silver. Bugman's glow I tend not to worry about in the cover up. When we're going through and just fixing stuff up, I tend not to worry about it. So, and you'll notice as well from the start of the video, if you've been counting off your colours, you'll be going, well, you haven't used that darker green yet. I tend to do all the dry brushing after I've done everything else. Because dry brushing is, you kind of want to do it on a finished model. It's not time consuming, it's just, you tend not to have to clean it up. And it's hard to get the right effect. So I've just spotted a little spot of brown on his arm that I want to clean up as well. So you just go for speed really when you try to do touch-ups. Because you just want to do a little bit here and a little bit there. All the bits you're not happy with is what you want to do. So I'm mostly happy with this guy now. Like I said, there's just this spot on his arm. And I'm going to quickly clean up. So just this little spot. There we go. There we go. And I'm fairly happy with this model. You may think it doesn't look great. I'll agree with you. I'm not an expert. We've still got to do a handle. Is this silver dry? Yeah, silver's mostly dry, so we can do the handle now. So I've gone over, I've cleaned up whilst I was waiting for that to dry. And now I'm just going to get my Morphang brown again, which there's still some on my palette. So I'm just going to go through that stick. Oh, there wasn't enough on my palette. So I'll pop some more out. And oh, there's also just this little bit of leather here. Okay, so his stick we're just going to do in Morphine Brown. And that's more so there's less paint for you guys to have to get. I would normally do a bit of a different colour. Now this is quite fiddly. So sorry if I don't get it all on camera very well. But I've got to try not to touch other parts of the model. Otherwise I'm going to have to go touch it up again. I kind of don't want to do that. So obviously the hardest part is all your little sticks and bits that crop out. And you'll keep spotting little bits that you haven't done. And just once you sort of get to this stage, finish up your model. Make it so you're happy with how it looks. People aren't going to spot imperfections as much as you are. You're going to know all the tiniest little imperfections of your model. You're going to know where there's little bits of black left over that you couldn't get to. Other people aren't necessarily going to spot that. Obviously, if there's a huge black spot, someone's going to notice it. But it's more about you being happy with your model. It's not about other people seeing that there's a little black spot somewhere. So I've just spotted a few bits where I need to fill in some skin. So there's a little bit on his hand here. And there's a little bit just under his shield. But I just want to tidy up. There you go. A little bit on his hand there from where I've just done the stick. A little bit on his back. There we go. So that's a largely finished model. We've just got to do the texturing, basing and shading. So what I'm going to do, let this dry, get to the same spot on this model and just tidy it up. There's a lot more tidying up to do on this model because it's a bit of a rush job, as I'm sure you can see. I'll get us to the same spot on both models while I wait for this one to dry, and then we'll come back. So we're now at a point where we've cleaned up our model, we're happy with how it looks, largely. You can spend hours and hours tidying up the model. You can if you want, it entirely depends on your preference and how you want your model to look. Now, a bit of an advanced step that I'm doing at the moment because I have a ton of these orcs and I want them all to look a bit similar, is I'm going to take a small dry brush. So this is one of the Citadel brushes from the Warhammer store. This is a small dry brush. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to just show you, ooh, sorry about the camera wobble. We're going to take this dark green that I grabbed earlier. And you don't need to do this, but you can. We're going to get a bit of paint, don't need too much, on the tip of the brush. Just like that. So I'm just scooping a bit up there. And I've got a bit of paint on the top of this dry brush. There's no water on it, but there's a bit of paint there. And what I'm doing is I'm just dabbing most of the paint off of the brush. So we're now left with a little bit of paint, as you can see. And how much paint? Depends on what you're doing. But then you just want to lightly brush it over, and you'll see that we're getting some of the raised bits are getting a slightly darker colour, and it just adds that little bit of detail to the skin. And you don't need to, but you can. And you will notice a few times here, like here, I've just got a bit of green on that bottom bit there. And I'll just go back over that in a Morphing Brown in a bit and make that look right. But I'm just doing a bit of a skin. And it doesn't need to be all over the model, just wherever there's a few raised bits. And just a little bit here and there. And that makes the model look a lot more lifelike, because you'll have different hues in different areas. So there's that. And it really is just a tad. Just a little bit here and there. And when someone looks at your model, it will just look that little bit more lifelike. So after we've done that, we are going to wet this brush and sweep it off in some water. But then what we're going to do is we're going to take the paper and we're going to make sure it's really dry until there's basically no water coming off of it. So there's the green done. I'm going to quickly do that bit of Morphing Brown. There's luckily still a little bit left on my palette. I'm going to wipe over that and clean this brush again. Always clean your brush when you're going to put it down for a bit. You don't want to let paint dry on it, because then it will turn crunchy and horrible. So we've done the green. That's that done. And really, you don't need to do it if you don't want to, but it does make it look a bit more lifelike. Now we're going to grab our Steel Legion Drab, and we're going to do the same thing again. Just a little bit of paint on the tip of a dry brush, and then dab it off. And you might think that's a lot of wasted paint, and it is, but it means that we just get a little bit of paint in the spaces that we want. So what we now do is, over any stitches and holes, we just lightly rub over, and again we just get that different hue in a few different areas, and over any stitches and stuff we just want to rub over, and it will give that sort of tanned leather look, because it won't be everywhere, it will just be over some stitches, and it will give that mild look, and you can't see it from a distance, but when you look at a model closely you'll see the difference, like all the little wrappings around the legs and that sort of stuff. I'm just doing that all over the model on any of the leather. And there we go. Again, you can't really see it that much, but you'll see there's just that little bit of lighter hue in different places. But the Morphing Brown is still the primary colour there. It's just been lightened in areas by that dry brush. So that's done. I'm just going to do a little bit down here as well. And that's lighten that hue. So I'm going to wipe off the wet the dry brush and wipe it off again. And we're done with all of the actual paints. So there's that. We've done a little bit of dry brushing. We painted everything. We chipped away a bit of the shield and stuff. And we've cleaned up the model, and we're happy with how it looks. So now what we do, we'll grab a normal brush. And what we want to do is, well, there's two ways. You can either shade first and then do your basing, or you can do your basing and then shade. Doing your basing and then shading is a lot better, because it means you can shade your base as well. And for basing, there's a couple options. This is Sturkland Mud. This comes in one of your starter sets. This doesn't come in a starter set. It gives more of a stony texture. for this model, I'm going to use the Sturkland mud. So I'm going to grab the mud. I'm going to grab my texture spreader. I'm going to pop it open. Well, yeah. So with this, you can't really shake it. It doesn't really come to the lid if you shake it. So what you want to do is you get your texture spreader, sort of scoop in. And actually with this, it's separated a bit. So I do want to give it a bit of a shake. Just to make sure all of the stuff's together. And scoop a bit out of the inside of the tub. And that's quite a lot there. So what I'm going to do is just leave it on the lid. And what you'll notice on the lids is there's a little cappy bit, this bit, that will keep it open. You see that little tab there? This little sticky up bit. So I'm going to just pop the lid back behind that and it will keep it open. And I can scrape a bit of a texture. And then on the base, I can just slaver it down like so. And you just want to spread it out. And I got nowhere near enough there. So I'm going to grab a bunch more. And I'm just going to slaver it all over the base. And you want some raised parts, you want some lower parts. It doesn't matter if you get it on the model. The way I like to look at it is if someone's fighting in a muddy field, they're going to have mud over them. You can take forever and make sure you don't get any on the model. But it's okay if you do, because like I said, someone's fighting on a muddy field, they're probably going to have mud on their feet, right? Especially if they're fighting barefoot. So you're just scraping all your texture basing all over the base. And again, there you go. And you'll notice there are some raised bits in the middle there. What I'm going to do, grab the smaller end of my spatula on my texture spreader and just shove it to the back. And it's okay to have raised bits because it will dry into nice hillocks and things, and it will look varied. And texture will do that anyway, but especially if you've got little raised clumps in different areas. It might crumble off, but it will give you a bit of a different texture, and that's all the texturing's there for. So we've done the texturing on this model. We're going to do the texturing on this model as well now. So with this one, I'm going to do myself a stone instead. And I'm just going to grab a chunk of stone. And I've just put mud in there. Damn it. You want to wipe your texture spreader clean as well. It doesn't matter too much because it's obviously thicker particles. So if you haven't got, if you've only got a little bit mixed in, it shouldn't matter. But wash it if you can. And again, that's just chucking it in your water and wiping your texture spreader dry. And I find basing to be one of the fun parts of the hobby. Especially when you get to the point where you've got some green stuff and whatever you want, you've got some different bits and bobs. So you can now make it look very different depending on how you base. If you've got some green stuff, you can, when you're building the model, you can put some little plants and stuff on the model and what have you. Or you can buy the pre-made ones and you can do that. So you see here, there's a lot of stone all over the model. This takes forever to dry. So I'm probably going to have to leave this for a couple hours to dry. You don't have to leave it for a couple hours. You can leave it for about an hour, 15 minutes, thereabouts. But you want to leave it to dry for a bit. Otherwise you'll get stone texture and stuff in your brush. And you don't want that. So there's that basing done. Like I said, you're literally just spaturing and spreading it all around. So there's two models with their bases done as well. And this guy's got a bit of mud on his foot. As you can see, it really, really doesn't matter. So I'm just going to wipe off my texture spreader and we'll be back in about an hour when these things are dry. So we've got two minis fully painted. We've cleaned them up. we've based them. Now we just want to shade them with the oil. So there's a few different shades you can have. This Agrax Earth shade just makes everything look a little bit darker. It basically makes the cracks look a bit darker. It shades the model. This is Agrax Earth shade. It comes in the starter set, so we're going to use this and just shake it up a bit. Get your brush, get your pot, and you'll see it's very liquidy. Earth shade is very, very liquidy. And you don't need to put it on your palette or anything. Just get it on your brush and then brush it everywhere, all over the model. And just, if you've got a lot of build up somewhere, move it down, move it everywhere. This stuff does get bloody everywhere, so be careful. If you've got a lot in a certain place, move it away. So I've got a lot on the helmet here. I'm just moving it down. And it will just make your cracks and recesses have more shadow. So that combined with black primer is going to do a lot. So there's a bit more there as well. And as you can see, it's just making everything a little bit groggier, a little bit earthier. And it's all over the model. It's just in all the cracks and everything. Yeah, so there we go. There's one model. You can see it's just a little bit dirtier. So I'm going to do the same for the base of this model as well. I'm going to get a little bit more. I'm going to put it on the mud as well. So you want to be careful when doing that on bases, because as you can see, the mud started to crumble off. It's gone onto my finger, so I just want to clean my brush because I've noticed it come off. And I just want to make sure my brush hasn't got any particles in. But you have different experiences with different textures. Some of them will crumble apart really quickly. Others won't. But there you go. There's a shade done on that model. I'm going to do the same one on this one, just so you can see it. And there we go. As well, if you look down there, there's a big load of shade. But I'm just going to scoop up and use that because I might as well. But you want to be careful because you'll get it, if that goes on newspaper, that might have soaked through and gone on your lovely dining room table or wherever you're painting. Just be careful that you don't get it everywhere. But this is what the shade does. So you'll see that we're fully shaded everywhere in a minute. And that shade just makes it look so much better, in my opinion. You have to shade your minis. You could go without. Personally, I think it makes them just have that bit of depth and a bit of realism there. It doesn't look like you've just painted the model and it's paint on there. It makes it look a little bit realistic. Or, well, I guess realistic. You want to make sure there's not oil built up everywhere as well. So if you've got a lot of oil on this model, like I've got on this one here, just dry your brush off and move the oil around, and it will very quickly move around. You can also blow on it as well. Blowing it will obviously move liquid around the model and make it so build-ups move. I'm just making sure there's not any big piles of oil everywhere. I'll just wipe that oil off my mat. And there we go. There's another model that has been shaded. And we're all done. There is, once that oil dries, one model and another model, both of which fully painted. This is the one we've done together. And I've done this over the course of a day. I've probably spent about 40 minutes per model over the course of a day. I've done a bunch of orcs before, so I'm not making many decisions. As you can see, I've done a rough job on them as well. I could have spent a lot longer if I wanted to be tidier. But there you go. That's how to paint a mini. That's how to go and paint your first mini from it being built. So, future videos, what do I want to do? I want to use green stuff and fill the crack on this guy's back. You can see that big crack there. I want to fill that in with some green stuff. We can do that probably tomorrow's video will be that. Minis. I want to paint some more minis. I've got some Hedonites of Slaanesh that I want to paint. And I want to go over what armies there are available and what models you can buy. So what I'll do is I'll get a nice photo of this guy. You've probably already seen him finished in the thumbnail. You've probably seen a before and after of this guy. But I'll get another photo and pop it up now. So, I hope you enjoyed that video. I hope it's been informative. I'm hoping to do a time-lapse of this guy. I don't quite know how the video's turned out yet. I've still got to go and edit it. But enjoy the rest of your day. And hopefully, this has been really informative. Thanks for watching, guys.